My sister cut me off from her wedding, claiming her fiancé had feelings for me. Stay with me as I share what happened. And if my story resonates with you, please support our channel by subscribing, leaving a like, and sharing it with those you care about. I'm Emily Carter, 27 years old, and I never imagined being caught in this kind of situation with my own sister. Rachel, my younger sister, is 25. We were close growing up, though competition always lingered between us. She wanted to surpass me in everything: grades, sports, even how people saw us. Still, she was my sister, and no matter what, I stood by her side whenever she needed me. I believed family always came first. So when she announced she was marrying Mark Turner, I was truly happy for her. Mark is 29, well put together, polite, though a little reserved. He had that charm that could win over a room, but to me, he was simply Rachel's fiancé. I kept my distance, not wanting to create unnecessary tension. I wanted Rachel to enjoy her special moment. Everything seemed fine, until 1 week before the wedding. While at work, I received a text from Rachel. I expected excitement, but instead, the words felt sharp and cold, like a blade cutting through me. She told me I was no longer invited to her wedding. Just like that. I thought she had to be joking, so I called her immediately. She didn't pick up. Instead, she sent another message, one that made my stomach drop. Mark told me he has feelings for you. You're not coming to my wedding. I froze, staring at my phone in disbelief. Mark having feelings for me? I replayed every interaction with him, every dinner, every conversation, and nothing stood out. I had never encouraged him, never wanted him. The thought made me feel sick. I texted Rachel again and again, insisting she was wrong, promising I had never done anything to invite that kind of attention, swearing I would never betray her. But she never replied. The pain went deeper than being excluded from her wedding. It was about my own sister, my blood, choosing to trust a man she'd only known for a few years over me. The same sister I had comforted after her first heartbreak, helped move into her first apartment, and cheered for at every important milestone. All of that was erased in an instant, because she believed I wanted to take her fiancé. That night, I couldn't sleep. I hadn't done anything, yet I was the one being punished. Rachel hadn't even asked for my side. She simply decided I was guilty, and it broke something inside me. It wasn't just about losing a seat at her wedding. It felt like losing my place in my own family. The emotions hit all at once: shock, anger, and a crushing sadness. More than anything, I just wanted my sister back. But deep down, I knew things would never be the same. The next morning I tried again. When she answered, I barely got her name out before she cut me off. Her voice was sharp, trembling with fury. She told me not to contact her anymore, that she already knew what I'd done, and that I should stop pretending. I begged her to listen, to let me explain, but she refused. To her, I was the villain. She hung up without hesitation. Shaken, I turned to my parents, hoping they'd see the truth. I sat in their living room, explaining everything. I told them Mark must have twisted things, that Rachel was making a mistake, that I had never crossed any line. My mother's face softened with pity, while my father sighed heavily, as though I was the problem. They didn't outright accuse me, but their words hurt all the same. Maybe it's better if you step back, my mom said carefully. Let your sister have her day in peace. It felt like a punch to the chest. They weren't standing with me. They were choosing silence. I wasn't asking them to ruin the wedding, only to believe me. But instead, they wanted me to disappear for the sake of avoiding conflict. Sitting there, I felt smaller than I had in years. That evening, the loneliness hit me hardest. For the first time, I felt like an outsider in my own family. While everyone else would be smiling at Rachel's wedding, I'd be shut out, labeled guilty of something I never did. My apartment walls felt like they were closing in, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being cast aside from the life I had always belonged to. Memories started flooding back, cheering the loudest at Rachel's school play, holding her through her first breakup, sweating and laughing as I hauled her boxes up to her first apartment. Every moment had been proof of my loyalty, proof that she mattered to me. But now with one accusation, it was all wiped away. That night, my mind kept circling back to Mark. Had he deliberately said something to turn Rachel against me? Or had her jealousy and competitiveness already made her doubt me? The thought twisted painfully inside. Either he had manipulated her, or she had never trusted me in the first place. I couldn't decide which was worse. No matter the reason, the damage was done. Sleep wouldn't come, and my brain replayed every encounter with Mark. At first, nothing seemed off, but the more I thought, the more small details resurfaced. I remembered the night Rachel invited me for dinner. Mark had been unusually talkative, asking about my job, my hobbies, even teasing me about the way I cut my food. He kept it up even when Rachel stepped into the kitchen, his eyes lingering on me too long. I brushed it off as friendliness. At a family barbecue, he complimented my dress. The words were casual, but the tone wasn't. Compliments from your sister's fiancé are supposed to feel harmless. That one didn't. Still, I buried the thought. The clearest memory came at a holiday dinner. The room was full of laughter and clinking glasses. As Mark passed me a dish, his arm brushed against mine, and stayed there a moment too long. I pulled back quickly, pretending not to notice. Rachel hadn't seen it, but I had. At the time, I convinced myself it was an accident. But now, with Rachel's accusations haunting me, those moments replayed with sharp clarity. What if he'd been testing boundaries all along, seeing what he could get away with? Every memory felt like a breadcrumb I had ignored. A heavy unease settled over me. For the first time, I started questioning myself in ways I never had before. Had I laughed too freely? Smiled too often at his jokes? Did I, without realizing, give him any reason to believe I was interested? The thought turned my stomach. To me, he had only ever been my sister's partner, nothing more. But now I couldn't help but wonder if he had twisted my kindness into something else. What unsettled me most was not knowing whether he had truly confessed anything to Rachel, or if he had planted seeds of doubt just to pit us against each other. The idea that he might have orchestrated this entire fracture gnawed at me. And if it wasn't his scheme, then maybe Rachel had taken his subtle gestures and spun them into her own narrative, fueled by her endless need to outshine me. Either way, the wound was real. I was left with two unbearable possibilities: that I had been blind to his intentions all along, or that Rachel's distrust of me ran so deep, she didn't need much evidence to cast me as guilty. Both weighed heavily, shattering what I thought I knew about my own family. The morning of the wedding arrived, yet to me, it felt like an ordinary Sunday. No dress prepared, no bag packed, no trace of excitement in my chest. Instead, I sat motionless, watching the clock crawl forward. I knew at that very hour, my family was bustling without me, slipping into formal clothes, adjusting ties, fixing hair. I could almost hear their laughter, the shuffle of shoes across the floor. A scene I should have belonged to, but didn't. The silence of my apartment pressed in on me. I tried filling the hours with coffee, with cleaning, with anything to keep busy. But each distraction only reminded me where I wasn't. When I closed my eyes, I pictured Rachel in her gown, gliding down the aisle, the music swelling, vows spoken, cheers filling the room. And with every image, the ache inside me sharpened. I had imagined standing beside her on that day, not watching from the shadows. So when my phone finally buzzed, my heart lurched, hoping it might be her. It wasn't. It was a message from my mom. Just a single photo. Rachel and Mark at the altar, hand in hand, beaming. No words, no explanation, just proof of what I had been cut out of. I stared at the picture until my eyes blurred. That single image said everything. They had gone on without me. In that moment, I ceased to exist in their story. I set the phone aside, hollow. It wasn't just that I'd missed the ceremony. It was that I had been erased, as if my presence would have tainted the joy. No one fought for me. No one saved me a place. I wiped my tears and forced myself to breathe. As painful as it was, one thought began to solidify. If Rachel and Mark managed to build a happy life, I would step back. I would swallow my grief and let them be. But if even the smallest crack appeared in their marriage, I would not hesitate. I would drag the truth into the light, no matter how brutal it was. That silent vow weighed heavy in my chest. They may have locked me out of the wedding, but I wouldn't let them lock me out of the truth. Nearly a month passed before fresh whispers reached me. At a family gathering, a cousin leaned close, speaking in a low murmur. She said someone had spotted Mark during the honeymoon. laughing and leaning far too close to a woman who was definitely not Rachel. She dismissed it as gossip, but the words lodged deep inside me. I told myself not to care. I longed to stay out of their marriage. But the seed had been planted, and with every day, it grew heavier. Not long after, my phone rang late one evening. It was Rachel. The moment I answered, her sobs filled the line. She said Mark had grown cold, distant, like his thoughts were somewhere far away. Between hiccuped breaths, she admitted she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. For a fleeting moment, I thought she was finally seeing through him. But then her tone sharpened, laced with venom. Maybe he still wants you. Maybe that's why he's acting this way. I froze, clutching the phone until my knuckles burned. It felt like being slapped all over again. After everything, the wedding, the betrayal, she still thought I was at the center of her husband's behavior. My patience snapped. Words tumbled out before I could stop them. I told her bluntly that I was not the problem, that her issues had nothing to do with me, and if she wanted to assign blame, she should look at the man she chose to marry. A silence followed. Then her voice erupted. Furious, sharp, unrelenting. She accused, I defended. Soon we were screaming, hurling years of resentment back and forth, neither one willing to retreat. Old wounds collided with new ones, spiraling into pure bitterness. By the time the call ended, I was shaking, my throat raw, ears ringing with her rage. What hurt most wasn't just her mistrust. It was that instead of reaching for me as a sister, she kept turning me into her enemy. Then one gray afternoon, an unexpected knock echoed at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, there was Rachel. Her eyes were swollen, her face blotchy, her hair tied back carelessly, as if she hadn't cared how she looked before coming. She walked past me without asking, collapsing onto the couch like her body could barely hold her. For a long while she said nothing. Then, in a trembling voice, she admitted she had gone through Mark's phone. She described scrolling through messages, her hands shaking as the truth unfolded before her. Women, multiple women. His words to them were intimate, full of promises. And none of it had anything to do with me. Hearing her say it out loud felt like a weight lifting, but also like a fresh wound tearing open. I sat beside her, handed her a glass of water, trying to offer comfort even as my own hurt throbbed. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking. "I thought it was you. I was so certain." I inhaled deeply, steadying myself. "You never even gave me a chance," I said quietly. "You trusted him more than you trusted me. That's what cut deepest." Her face crumpled. For once, she had no sharp reply. She buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. The pride she always wore like armor finally cracked. And there she was, not the sister who always had to win, but just Rachel. Hurt, broken, realizing the truth too late. She sat in my living room for a long time, staring at the floor as if it might swallow her whole. The air carried her unspoken apology, but it wasn't enough. Sorry couldn't mend what I'd endured. I wanted more justice. I wanted Mark to pay for what he had done to both of us. Leaning forward, I told her plainly, if she truly wanted to move on, she couldn't just cry over his betrayal. She had to expose him. At first, she shook her head, whispering she didn't have the strength. But I pressed harder, reminding her of how easily he had deceived her. How quickly he had turned her against me. "He humiliated you in front of everyone," I said, steady and firm. "He humiliated me too. If you want him out of your life, then end it on your terms. Don't let him slip away so easily." Slowly, she agreed to let me step in. Over the next several days, we started tracking his habits, where he went after work, the spots he lingered. It didn't take long before the truth revealed itself. One evening, we caught sight of him leaving a restaurant with another woman, leaning close, his hand sliding across her lower back. Rachel's face drained of color, but I urged her to keep watching. The next step was confronting one of the women he was involved with. I set up a meeting at a cafe, and when she arrived, nervous but curious, I told her why we were there. At first, she was guarded, but the moment Rachel pulled out a wedding photo, guilt washed over her face. She admitted she had been dating him, thinking he was unattached. Then she showed us his messages, filled with empty promises identical to the ones Rachel once believed in. By the time we left, Rachel's hands were shaking as she clutched the screenshots, as though they burned her palms. There was no denying it anymore. His deception cut deeper than either of us had imagined. That night, as she sat on my couch again, I told her the next step. Don't just walk away in silence. Make him face what he's done. Do it in front of everyone. Make him regret ever thinking he could play us both. Her eyes flickered with fear, but behind it smoldered something else, anger. She bit her lip, nodded slowly and whispered, "Okay." It wasn't just agreement. It was the first sign of determination I had seen in her. The chance came on a Saturday night when our parents decided to host a family dinner. The table was set with care, wine glasses glittering under the chandelier, the aroma of roast drifting through the house. Everyone gathered as though the last few months had been perfectly normal. Rachel arrived with Mark at her side, smiling faintly, her arm looped through his as if she were still the devoted wife. I kept my expression neutral, saying nothing. The evening began with casual talk, work updates, half-hearted jokes, the usual small chatter that felt painfully forced to me. Mark seemed at ease, laughing too loudly, raising his glass like a man already convinced of his victory. Rachel played along, but I noticed the tightness in her jaw, the restless tap of her fingers against her napkin. As the main course was finishing, she shifted in her seat. Without warning, she reached into her bag and pulled out a crisp stack of papers. She laid them in the center of the table, the sharp rustle of paper cutting through the clatter of forks. Everyone leaned forward, curiosity flashing in their eyes. Silence fell as my father picked up the first sheet. His expression froze and he passed it along. They were screenshots, thread after thread of messages dripping with charm and promises no married man should be making. Next came hotel receipts, with dates and times perfectly aligned with his so-called late nights at work. Gasps filled the room. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. An aunt muttered, "Oh my God," while cousins exchanged stunned stares. Mark lunged for the papers, stammering, his voice rising as he insisted they were fake, a misunderstanding, anything but the truth staring back at him. His denial only fueled the uproar. My father's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and unyielding, demanding an explanation. Mark's face burned red, but no excuse could erase the evidence stacked before him. One by one, the relatives turned on him, disbelief giving way to disgust, disappointment hardening into fury. Rachel's hands didn't tremble as she slipped off her wedding ring. She placed it squarely on his plate, the metallic clang echoing louder than all the shouting. Her eyes locked on his, steady, unwavering. For once, she didn't look fragile. She looked like she had taken back her power. I leaned back, silent, watching the storm consume him. Faces around the table shifted from admiration to condemnation. Seeing him squirm as the truth cornered him filled me with a dark satisfaction I couldn't hide. He had tried to paint me as the problem, but now he sat exposed in front of everyone he had fooled. The house buzzed long after the dinner ended, voices echoing through the hallway while Mark stormed out. Plates sat unfinished, glasses untouched. I slipped outside for air, the cool night brushing against my skin. Moments later, the door creaked open and Rachel joined me. Her shoulders slumped, her eyes rimmed red. But this time, there was no fire in her expression, only exhaustion. For a while we stood in silence. Then in a trembling voice she whispered, "I was wrong." The words seemed to drain the life out of her. She admitted she never should have turned against me, that she had let Mark twist her until she saw me as the enemy. Her apology broke into pieces, scattered with sobs, and she confessed how much she regretted shutting me out of the one day that was meant to be joyful. I listened, but I didn't let her off easily. I told her an apology couldn't erase the damage. She had chosen him over me without hesitation, and that wound wouldn't heal overnight. "I'll forgive you," I said slowly, "but it'll take time. You'll have to earn back what you lost." Her face crumpled, but she nodded, accepting it. Leaning against the railing, her voice unsteady, she admitted something I never expected. She confessed she had always envied the way I carried myself, how certain I seemed of who I was. A part of her believed Mark noticed it too, and instead of trusting me, she let jealousy take root. He had preyed on that insecurity, feeding the fear she never spoke aloud. Hearing her finally bare what she had hidden for years softened something in me. For once, she wasn't competing, wasn't accusing. She was vulnerable. And in that moment, I felt something shift between us, fragile but real, as if a wall had finally cracked. We stood there quietly, no more words for a while. In that silence, she looked at me not as a rival, but as the sister who had always been beside her. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a first step toward healing. As for Mark, he didn't last long after that dinner. Within days, he packed his things and left, muttering excuses to anyone who would listen. He insisted the evidence was twisted, that Rachel was overreacting. But the more he defended himself, the less convincing he became. No one believed him anymore. He left with his pride shattered, his reputation ruined, and not a single ally left. Rachel wasted no time. Within months, she filed for divorce. No drawn-out speeches, no second chances. She signed the papers with steady hands, cutting ties cleanly. For once, she wasn't pretending anymore. She ended it, leaving him to drown in the wreckage he had created. I began piecing things back together with my family, though it wasn't simple. The memory of being cast aside lingered, a reminder of how quickly they had chosen silence over support. I let them back in, but part of me stayed guarded, aware their loyalty had once faltered. Rachel and I rebuilt something too. Slowly she reached out, not with rivalry, but with small, genuine gestures. A coffee invitation, a quick check-in, sharing little pieces of her life. It was her way of proving she was trying. The road was long, but I made space for it. Looking back, one truth stands above all. I had been excluded from a wedding for a betrayal I never committed. The irony? The only betrayal came from the groom himself. He deceived my sister, hurt my family, and tried to turn us against each other. In the end, he exposed himself, and Rachel finally saw who he really was. That memory stays with me, sharp, unshakable. I was branded guilty without cause, but time revealed the real culprit. Rachel paid the price for trusting him, and I paid the price for being mistrusted. But at least, in the end, the truth rose to the surface. The man she thought she loved was the one who betrayed us all, not me. Do you think I was right to walk away, or should I have given her another chance? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell for more stories.